Okay, let's unpack this. Today we're asking something pretty fundamental, really. When does all that effort, that passion, that zeal, when does it actually count?
Right, that's a great question.
And we're going deep into the book of Hebrews today, looking for some, well, maybe surprising insights about leadership, faith, and maybe finding what really fulfills us. It seems to come down to where we point all that energy.
Exactly. That's our mission here, isn't it? To pull out that timeless wisdom, specifically about how crucial direction is. Maybe even more crucial than just raw effort or zeal.
Makes sense.
And we'll look at how the author of Hebrews makes this really compelling case for Jesus being, well, superior to some massive figures and ideas from the Old Testament. It's all about finding the right path, the genuine purpose.
Okay, so the author of Hebrews, they're clearly writing to people facing a specific struggle, right? A kind of pressure maybe to go back to older ways instead of sticking with their faith in Jesus. What was really pulling at them?
Yeah, that's the core tension. And what's fascinating is how the author uses the Old Testament itself to argue against leaving Jesus. You see, for this audience, figures like angels, Moses, the priesthood, these were pillars, foundational.
Absolutely central.
So the author starts by establishing Jesus as the Messiah, the one promised all along through the prophets, God's plan. Then, boom, Jesus is above the angels.
Which for them was huge.
Yeah.
Angels were seen as these powerful messengers, maybe even delivering the law itself.
Precisely. So claiming Jesus, God's son, is superior, that immediately sets up his supreme authority. It reframes everything right from the start.
And then they move on to Moses. Wow. I mean, for the Jewish people at the time, Moses was, well, almost everything. Leader out of Egypt, giver of the law, the foundation of their whole religious identity, their sacrificial system. It's hard to overstate his importance, surely.
No, you really can't. And that's why the author's move here is so bold and so insightful. He draws this crucial distinction. Moses, he says, was faithful in God's house, the community, the covenant, but as a servant.
Okay, a servant testifying to what was coming later.
Exactly. But Christ, he was faithful over God's house as a son. It's almost like comparing the builder of a house to the architect who designed it and owns it.
Ah, okay. Both vital, but one has the ultimate vision, the ownership.
Right. And this isn't just ancient theology. It's a pattern, isn't it? It teaches that even the most revered people or systems can be signposts pointing towards something or someone more permanent, more ultimate. It demands a shift in where we place our deepest loyalty.
So, okay, the author deals with Moses and the law's authority. But what about the promise they were all focused on? That rest in the promised land, in Canaan. Did they, actually get it?
That's another surprising twist in the argument. The text points out, hey, remember your ancestors, the ones who received the law first. They doubted God in the wilderness. They never entered that promised rest.
Right, the generation that died out.
And even their descendants, who did enter Canaan under Joshua. The author argues they didn't find the true, complete rest either. Because if Joshua, whose name in Hebrew, Yeshua, is the same as Jesus had given them that final rest, why would God, speaking through David centuries later, talk about another future day of rest?
Interesting point. So the first, Joshua couldn't quite deliver the ultimate rest.
But he foreshadowed the one who could. Jesus Christ, leading believers into God's true final rest. It's a deeper fulfillment.
Okay, so beyond the lawgiver Moses and the promise of rest, there was that other massive pillar, the priesthood itself. But wait, Jesus wasn't from the priestly tribe, Levi, was he?
No, he wasn't, and that's perhaps the most radical claim. For centuries, the priesthood was strictly Levitical. So for Hebrews to introduce Jesus as a priest, but in the order of Melchizedek, that's huge.
Melchizedek, that mysterious figure from Genesis. The king priest Abraham met way before Moses or Levi.
Exactly, the one Abraham himself acknowledged. And then, hundreds of years later, King David, in Psalm 110, picks up this thread, mentioning an eternal priesthood connected to Melchizedek. The author connects the dots. Jesus, David's descendant, is that promised eternal priest. It points to a higher, timeless priestly authority, completely outside the established system.
So when you put it all together,
Yeah.
it seems the author's driving home this fundamental idea.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in the visible stuff, the sacrifices, rituals, festivals, the things you can see and touch.
Right, but those are just symbols, shadows. What really matters is grasping the unseen reality they point to. And that takes faith. Trusting what God has promised, even when you can't see the proof right in front of you.
Which brings us back to where we started. Zeal and effort.
Precisely. The author hammers this home. Direction trumps sheer zeal. Think about the Apostle Paul, incredible zeal persecuting Christians, right? Utterly misdirected.
Until Damascus Road.
Then, same incredible energy, but pointed in the right direction, evangelizing the world. And even then, he talks about discipline, about not running aimlessly or just beating the air. Staying on course takes constant effort, even when you know the destination.
So the big takeaway for us, listening now, is really drilling down on this idea. Direction is more critical than just being busy or passionate. Our deep dive really shows that, doesn't it? Massive effort can be wasted if it's pointed the wrong way, like the Israelites wandering, or even Paul before his conversion. This path of faith isn't about needing visible signs all the time.
No, it's about trust. Trusting what God has revealed, his promise, and moving towards that, even when the evidence isn't laid out neatly before us.
So the question that leaves us with, maybe the most important one for you listening, is how do you make sure your compass is calibrated correctly? How do you know you're not just busy, but actually moving in the right direction?
It's about intentionally aligning your passion, your efforts, with that true direction in your own life, your work, everything. Contrast someone like Gideon, always needing signs, testing God, with Daniel's friends who walked into the furnace based purely on trust in God's character and word and whatever the visible outcome.
Trusting the unseen promise over the immediate visible circumstances.
Exactly. Letting that trust guide your zeal, that seems to be the heart of it, making sure you're not just running, but running well.